Emerson Wells is asking, being the head of the house, how do you think a wife can charitably discuss agreements with decisions a man has made in that role?
So let me kind of give you my thoughts on this whole
you're married,
submission thing, right? Yeah. And that's that. Like, I think what's important is whenever we discuss a difficult thing, that it can be helpful to begin by saying what we don't mean. So if I talk to a Protestant about why I think Mary's a mother of God, it can help for me to take some time to say what I don't mean by that. I'm not saying Mary preceded God. I'm not saying that. We don't worship Mary. Likewise, if I talk to a Muslim friend about the Trinity, it's important that I say what I don't mean when I say the Trinity. You want to do that because you don't want people to come in with preconceived ideas. But at some point, you have to then say what you do mean, okay? So when you look at a difficult passage from Ephesians 5, where Paul says husbands are the head of their wives, or something to that effect. I don't have the exact words in front of me, right? It's important, right? In a day and age and in a society where women have been like objectified and used and discarded, like that's like the pornographic culture is that. Okay, so in where women are mistreated by men, it is very important that you don't, I think, if you want to be heard at least, maybe you don't, but if you do, that you begin by saying what you don't mean. And you should say things like, that doesn't mean that the woman becomes a walking mat for her husband. That does not mean, that whatever. And you could speak about that for an hour. But it does seem to me that at some point you have to say what it does mean. And so for me, I think what it means is that the husband is the head of the household, that a woman shouldn't seek that role, nor should she contradict her husband unless she has good reason to, that there should be this sense of submitting to the good her husband wants for her, because no one should submit to a tyrant, right? Nobody wants to submit to a tyrant. So if you hear women submit to your husbands and you hear allow him to dominate you, you are right to rebel against that, right? But I think there's a sense in which a woman wants, I don't know if she does or not, but I'll talk about my wife. Like, my wife wants me to lead our family in love and as a servant. She wants to submit to my authority. She, even little things, right? Like, wants me to lead the prayers for our kids, like wants me to have the head of the table, right? And that's not a dominating thing, right? Okay, that's what I think that means. But then if you read people like St. John Chrysostom in his commentary on this, what he'll say are things like, okay, he quickly says that, and then he says, now you love your wives, right? And St. John Chrysostom, bishop, right, 4th century, right, father of the church, he'll say, now what if she disrespects you? What if she talks down to you? And then he says, what about it? You do your duty and you love her. How did Christ win over the church? Not by dominating, not by tyrannizing, but by laying down his life. You do the same thing. There's a few thoughts on it.
Agreed. There's another one too. Enoch and Elijah. Matt and Amber, y'all are doing great work. Just wanted to give that affirmation.
Thank you.
Thank
so
God.
Sweet. We love affirmations. We love to be told we're doing the right thing.
I know. Beautiful. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Also, I know in like arguments and stuff, I'm just throwing a tidbit of like information out there. You're having an argument, guys. So this is like scientifically proven that women like to be face to face and guys like to be doing something while they're talking to their women. So they prefer to be side to side.
To their women, I like it.
They prefer to like be working with their hands while their woman's talking to them, whereas women prefer face to face contact.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that they're being heard and through eye contact and stuff.
It's so true. And
so one of the best ways you can do that though, men and women, is if you're having an argument, the best solution for it is to hold hands like this across the table with each other and talk to each other in each other's eyes. That's the best way, because then you're like, physical person, I'm talking to the love of my life, hopefully. Like, I don't want to say something that's going to hurt them. And when you're looking at their face, it's
I'll
so much
remember
easier.
That. Thank you for saying that. That is a really cool thing, just to kind of change your physical posture, even in a way that's not usual, like holding hands in a different way so as to remind yourself. That's so true. Because my wife, she's so cool. She's so choleric. You know what I mean by that? Like, she walks. This is how she realized she was so choleric. She said to me once, "You know when you walk into a room and you size up who's in charge, and if no one's in charge, you take charge of the room."
Fair enough.
And I said, "No, I have no idea. I've never done that." She went, "Really?" So she's cool.
Really? I love her.
She's so cool. But what was I going to say about her? But But I mean, it's funny, like just because someone, like you've pointed out a few times that you tend to enjoy activities that aren't traditionally feminine, but I don't know. I think it sounds beautiful and feminine to me. It's just like maybe femininity doesn't have this strict, narrow, right?
That's
like
literally
you
what
are
our
feminine.
first,
You are motherly. You're a beautiful young woman.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so are you. But it's like this idea, this is what happens when you eradicate the sexes, you thereby eradicate sexual traits, and then you make a mockery of them when you want to regain them, either through drag queens, which is a mockery of femininity, or by having these specific things that a man must do, feel, be like, speak like, and then you've narrowed it again.
Yeah, that's exactly what our first Girl Talk episode was on, about how femininity looks different for everybody.
Yes.
And
Amen.
it's so important because there have been girls who have come to me and they're just like, I wear jeans and a t-shirt. Am I feminine? And I'm like, girl,
Are you a woman? Then yes.
What is a woman?
Well, we don't know that. But.
We're not scientists here, guys. But yeah, it's really important to know that femininity looks different on everybody. And that's important. I mean, you should still try, but like.
But I do think like it'd be kind of like if we eradicated what humans are, and we said humans don't exist. There's no humans. There's just like.
And then you put monkeys in.
But then then there would be a subculture of people who would very much like to know what it was that people did when they thought they were humans, and then they would do that rigidly. That's kind of like that.
That's actually really accurate. Yeah. That's really accurate. Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching that clip. Before you go, do us a favor, click like, click subscribe, and if this really meant something to you, help us out by sharing it.